some bit we have missed on recordings too. So far we have talked about the Indriyas bit. Okay, Indriyas, three types we have covered so far. Now talking about the classification of Anumana. So Anumana classification, very important bit. Couple of times questions are asked from this. So first one is your psychological classification. What is psychological classification? Swa artha anumana, parartha anumana. If you pronounce correctly, half your job is done. Swa artha anumana. So anumana is knowledge
Swayam.
based on prior knowledge. Yeah. So swa artha is self. So when we are
Self.
trying to infer something for ourselves, that is swa artha anumana. Like for example, a person who perceives a patch of smoke remembers that there is a universal relationship between smoke followed by fire, and finally infers that there is fire on the hill. So what are we trying to do? We are convincing, based on our prior knowledge, we are convincing ourselves of the relation between knowledge, fire and smoke. अब क्या हो गया? Okay, so that is swa artha anumana. Then next one is para artha anumana. Para artha anumana is when we are trying to convince somebody else. So this we got to understand through the 5-member syllogism example. And this is again very important bit. Couple of times what kind of questions have come is arranging this in chronological order. So you should be through with the meaning of this. So para artha anumana we have understood is when we are trying to convince others. And see, convincing self is pretty easy, right? You can convince yourself at your own ease. But when you're convincing somebody else, that time we have to convince them thoroughly. So that we will try and understand through this 5-member syllogism or Parartha Anumana classic example. What is that? So the first one, remember the smoke and fire example, which is we have been discussing throughout the Anumana discussion, right? When we saw smoke in a hill, we conclude that there is fire, and this how we had concluded based on prior knowledge, right? So a simple statement is called as pratijna, or you say pratigya. Simple statement. What is this? Specific or a general statement? A specific statement. The mountain has fire. We are talking about a specific statement out here. Reason known as hetu in Indian logic. Why? Because it has smoke. So we state that through an example that whatever has smoke is fiery. So from past knowledge, we know smoke is followed by fire. Whatever is smoky is followed by fire. So smoke followed by fire. For example, in an oven, in the past, we may have seen that smoke in the oven or chimney is followed by fire. Yeah, we reaffirm the same thing, that is reaffirmation. Reaffirmation is upanay, the smoke which is invariably associated with fire. So we are talking about universal relationship between smoke and fire. And then we come to the nigman or conclusion. Nigman or conclusion, what it says? Hence the mountain has fire. So this order you got to remember, very important. Pratigya, Hetu, Udharan, Upnay and Nigman. Clear this 5-member syllogism?
Yes, ma'am.
Possible? Okay. Now, now there is classification on the basis of nature of Vyapti. So the second classification, Purvavat Anumana. Purvavat is from the effect, from the cause. We are inferring the effect. Purvavat, something which we are seeing before. For example, if we are seeing cause before, Purvavat. Just let me use a pen. Some reason the pen doesn't work here. So Purvat is when we are seeing the cause. For example, in the sky, if we see that there are dark clouds. So, what is the cause? Dark clouds. So, in the sky, if we are seeing dark clouds as the cause, and from cause, that is from dark clouds, we are inferring that it might rain. So, we are inferring the effect from the clause. So, for example, by seeing the clouds, one infers that it will be raining. What we are seeing is the cause or hetu, and what are we inferring? That it will rain. So, from cause, we are inferring the effect. So, you can take a note. Purvat inference is effect is inferred from the cause. That is, rain is inferred from the clouds. So that is Purvat Anumana or Purvat inference. Yeah. The reverse of it is Sheshvat. So Shesh is reminder and bacha kucha. So the reverse of it. Just when you see the fullness of river, what is that? The effect. And you infer that it may have rained. So when cause is inferred from the effect, that is Sheshvat. Just the reverse of it. So Purvat was effect inferred from the cause, and Sheshvat is cause inferred from the effect. If you remember, just understand the conceptually. These are asked
Yes,
question
ma'am.
in the exam. So Purvat and Sheshvat. And
Shesh.
then सामान्य तो दृष्ट. सामान्य is generally, है ना?
जो
दृष्ट,
दिख रहा है वो
तो हाँ, what it looks like.
दृष्टि.
So something
हम्म.
which normally what it looks like. For example, see, sun actually changes its position, right? But we see sun as stationary. So for us, sun is static, right? Because the movement is not seen. So generally what it looks like, samanya to drishta is your another classification based on nature of vyapti. All these three are asked question in the exam. तो आपने दो classification done, Purvat, Sheshvat and Samanyatodrishta based on nature of Vyapti, and psychological classification, that is Swartha Anumana and Para Artha Anumana.
परार्थ.
Now moving to the third classification, which is based on induction. So Keval Anvay, Keval Vyatireki and Anvay Vyatireki. So what is this? The first one, Keval Anvay. So, Vyapti, if we recall, Vyapti is the relationship between major term and middle term. So, when this relationship, okay, is affirmative or positive relationship between middle term and major term, then that is your Keval Anvay inference. So Keval Anvay inference is relationship between middle and major term in all the positive instances. For example, all knowable objects are nameable. So whatever is having a name are known to us. For example, pot is a knowable object, therefore pot is nameable. तो जो नामधारी है उनका हम नाम जानते हैं और उनके बारे में हमें पता है, right? Something, these two are having positive relationship. Whatever is known to us, we can name them, and whatever we can name them is known to us. So here the relation between middle term and major term is affirmative concomitance. Relation between middle term and major term is affirmative, or relationship is talking about positive relationship. Positive relationship, one word take a note, is केवल अन्वय inference. Just the reverse of it is केवल व्यतिरेकी. व्यतिरेकी is talking about relation between middle and major term, which is negative. Negative relationship between middle term and major term is केवल व्यतिरेकी. Positive was केवल अन्वय.
केवल अन्वय.
And we talk about when there is a relationship which has both positive as well as negative relationship between middle term and major term, that is अन्वय व्यतिरेकी. So
मैम
हाँ जी,
मैम आई हैव डाउट. तो ये हमें ऐसे ही प्रीमाइसेस देंगे, कंक्लूजन देंगे, ऑन बेसिस ऑफ दैट वी हैव टू आइडेंटिफाई इज इट केवल अन्वयी और केवल
see
व्यतिरेकी,
what
ऐसा
what
आएगा
they have
क्या?
asked so far na. Say they have just asked what is the positive relationship. I'll show you the questions which are going to come. So
ओके ओके. आई थॉट कि प्रीमाइसेस आएगा और फिर कंक्लूजन आएगा, ऑन बेसिस ऑफ दैट वी हैव टू कंक्लूड.
just
तो फिर हमें वो देखना पड़ेगा क्या? ए आई
एक
है
second,
तो फिर
I'll just show you the
यस
exact question which is asked. So
यस यस.
look through this question. When the middle term is both positively and negatively related to major term, what was that? Anvay Vyatireki, right?
ओके 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 ओके.
So
हाँ
just the
यस.
meaning bit, like here, and the example also they have asked. See, same
मिडिल टर्म एंड
example.
यस यस यस.
The pot is knowable. So this is talking about a positive relationship. So either ways, questions are put up. Got it?
हाँ मैम, दैट इज हियर दीज आर प्रीमाइसेस एंड कंक्लूजन, नो बेजन.
Yes. And also from the meaning bit, like whether both positively and negative relationship is what. So
ओके.
that way, even examples become important.
यस मैम.
So I've put up these questions in today's quiz also. तो ठीक है, this classification of anumana clear, very important topic. So this is specifically
यस
mentioned in the
मैम.
syllabus, and one time questions come. These are little deep concepts, so just brush up. Same notes are shared with you also. It gets that way also easy to revise. चलो आगे बढ़ते हैं. Upamana components. Upamana components. What was Upamana? Upamana is knowledge based on similarity of things. मेरा घर तेरे घर जैसा. And comparison or Upamana is most asked question in the exam. Okay. So if you have to take a educated guess, I would say go with comparison Upamana. ठीक है, do not quote me for it. Similarity is the base of upamana pramana. Like you, for example, a person who does not know ginger and knows from other person like ginger is like turmeric. So after hearing what's a familiar thing, we come to know about unknown object through upamana or comparison. So there are components of upamana. What are these components? Upameyam, the subject of the comparison. Upamanam, the object of the comparison, and Samanya is attribute. That much only you remember. The subject of the comparison is Upameyam, object is Upamanam, and attributes, gunas, are Samanya. ठीक है. फिर आ
यस
जाता
मैम.
है आपका शब्द. What was शब्द? शब्द is
टेस्टिमोनी.
testimony of
टेस्टिमोनी.
reliable experts, right? So someone whom we can trust, like our dharma guru, the doctor. These are the spoken or written. Now, important thing here is to understand there are four conditions to make a Shabda Praman a valid one. What are these four conditions? That is asked in the exam. So, conditions of Shabda Pramana: Akanksha, Yogyata, Sannidhi and Tatparya. Four conditions for making a logical Shabda Pramana. What are these? Let's understand. So आकांक्षा, शब्दों में आकांक्षा होनी चाहिए. Like if we just give a horseman, cow, horseman, elephant, it is like a nonsense. So word should be put up in such a way that it will make logical sentence. So akanksha is the capacity of words to become objects of inquiry, and all these conditions have to be present. Akanksha, the word should be correctly used and it should be arranged in a proper format to make a logical sentence. Yeah, that is akanksha. Hope you're with me and it is all making sense to you.
Yes, ma'am.
ठीक है. The second one is yogyata. Yogyata is the capacity of words which should not be contradictory. So for example, if we say air is heavy because it is light, so that should not be the correct sentence. Another example here is virodhabasi here. Water the plants with fire. Can we do that? No. Contradictory sentences nahi hone chahiye under yogyata. Then sannidhi. Sannidhi is proximity. Proximity of words to one another. For example, bring a cow. Bring a cow at long intervals. Or if I say the time is, then I take a 1 hour break and then I say the time is, after 1 hour I take a pause and say 9:25. Then it will not make sense because the time had already passed and it will be 10:25, right? So proximity of words is another important condition of sabda. And last one is tatparya. Tatparya is pretty simple to understand. Intention of the speaker. Like the word sandhav means salt as well as a horse. So in what sense the speaker may have uttered sandhav? These are the four conditions. Exam perspective, again the order is important. You're asked questions from the order, but conceptually,
Or
yeah, please go ahead.
okay. No, 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 no.
ठीक है, तो ये order भी
Actually,
यहाँ
there is no logical order basically, ना मैम यहाँ पे. अच्छा, you should put use logically correct sentence होना चाहिए. Words pick up properly करना चाहिए. ऐसा
ये पूछा है, ये ऑर्डर भी पूछा है क्वेश्चंस. आकांक्षा,
order.
योग्यता, सन्निधि, तात्पर्य को ऑर्डर में लगाने भी पूछा है.
Okay.
इसको इसी ऑर्डर में याद रखना है. Okay. Two broad classification of Shabda Pramana on the basis of source, on the basis of object. So on the basis of source, you have Vedic and Lokik. So Vedic testimony. See, Vedic, anything which is scriptural, even when we will be doing schools of logic, that time also remember scriptural or Vedic. See, Vedas are said to be perfect. Why? Because it is believed that it comes from directly from the mouth of God. So these are infallible. So anything like the schools of thought which believed in Vedas, they believe that uh, anything which is written in Vedas is correct. But again, we have school of
Brahmavani.
thoughts which is not believing in Vedas, like Jainism, Buddhism, are to name a few.
Yes.
Okay. Source के basis पे another classification is secular or Lockic. So this is worldly. So like being the words of human beings who are liable to error is not infallible. Human beings can utter lies. So another classification on the basis of objects. Drashta. Drashta is something which we can see. दृश्य आया है दृष्टा, something which is perceptible, which we can see, touch, feel. And another classification, adrashta, so your imperceptible object. So far no questions are not asked from this bit though. Okay, then vyapti, let's understand vyapti. So what you know about vyapti, if you can just give me a brief, anything you recall about vyapti? बताओ, स्लाइड्स
No,
देख के बताओ।
ma'am.
नहीं,
Vyapti means you're trying to infer something
that was
from your
anumana, right?
anuman. Huh.
है ना? The example where which we have put up is also anumana example, right? So
Yes.
if we see smoke on a hill, we conclude that there must be fire. Now we recall all these terms, that hetu was the reason, and hetu was a middle term, minor term, major term. Remember? Task for you. See this example in Anumana. What was that? Sadhya was your major term. Okay. So here we are seeing there is a relation between Hetu and Sadhya. Now we understand that Anumana Pramana is not a foolproof Pramana. It is based on this relationship between Hetu and Sadhya. So if you categorically bifurcate it into two parts, V jod apti becomes your vyapti. V means Vishesha and apti is sambandh or relation. So the special relationship between Hetu and Sadhya is vyapti. Now, couple of terms which we have to recall about Vyapti is universal. Vyapti is universal. तो universal को क्या कहते हैं? सार्वभौमिक. So I'll come to this bit later. Let's do the word meaning first. See, सार्वभौमिक, which is present everywhere. So for example, if we relate to this example, smoke followed by fire, it is of universal nature, right? If you light a match, if you light a, let's say, uh, wet wood, and there will be smoke first followed by fire in Mumbai, same experiment if you do in Delhi, you will get the same results, right? So can we say that smoke followed by fire is a universal sort of relationship, or smoke is followed by fire is sarvabhaumik is nature? So if we are seeing in any statement, if we are seeing that there is a universal relationship between hetu and sadhya, that relationship will be termed as vyapti. हेतु और साध्य के बीच का विशेष संबंध व्याप्ति कहलाता है। और ये संबंध कैसा है? This relationship is universal in nature और सार्वभौमिक in nature. ठीक है, तो पहला important word to remember regarding vyapti is special relationship between hetu and sadhya, and vyapti is universal or सार्वभौमिक in nature. ठीक, now vyapti is a universal statement, means this is niyat sahacharya. नियत हिंदी लिटरल मीनिंग क्या होगा? नियत इज कांस्टेंट, एंड सहचर्य, सहचर्य इज कॉन्कोमिटेंस और को एग्जिस्टेंस, यानी कि ऐसा रिलेशनशिप, such kind of relationship which is niyat sahacharya or relation of constant concomitance between hetu or middle term and sadhya or major term. So हेतु एंड साध्य के बीच का रिलेशनशिप नंबर 1 क्या हो जाता है, यूनिवर्सल है, ठीक। एंड सेकेंड, दिस रिलेशनशिप इज नियत सहचर्य, यानी कि जो हमेशा ही साथ साथ में चलने वाला है, यानी कि जहां जहां धुएं के बाद आग होगी, wherever the smoke is followed by fire, is a relationship which is niyat sahcharya. So wherever we see this kind of relationship which is universal, which is of constant concomitance, we will say vyapti exists in such kind of statement. Yeah, sarvabhaumik niyat sahcharya. Now the third terminology to take a note is anupadhik, यानी कि there should be unconditionality between these two. What is this anupodhic sambandha? You can take a note, unconditional relationship, मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि धुएं के बाद आग होगी जब वो किसी पहाड़ पे होगा. There should be no such condition. We are talking about a relationship between middle term and major term. We are talking about a special relationship between hetu and sadhya, which should be based on unconditional. There should not be any condition. This relationship should be niyat sahcharya, that is, this relationship should be of constant concomitance. This relationship should be unconditional, and this relationship should be universal, or this relationship is सार्वभौमिक. समझ में आए? ये सारे टर्मिनोलॉजीज क्लियर है, नियत सहचर्य,
Yes, yes,
अनुपौधिक
yes.
एंड सार्वभौमिक. तो ये सारे टर्म आपको व्याप्ति से रिलेटेड याद रखने हैं, ठीक है. क्वेश्चंस नहीं आए हैं, बट व्याप्ति का मीनिंग आपको क्लियर होना चाहिए. व्याप्ति बेसिक मीनिंग क्लियर है. वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट सच काइंड ऑफ रिलेशनशिप between your middle term and major term, hetu and sadhya. Wherever this relationship exists, wherever this special relationship or vishesha sambandh exists, that time only we say vyapti happens. So what is vyapti? Vyapti is unconditional constant concomitant relationship between vyapya and vyapaka. Now vyapya and vyapaka also I have explained somewhere. So
Yes, yes,
Vyapya.
earlier.
Vyapya is your fire, which is having a bigger extension, right? Vyapaka. Vyapak is the pervader, which is your smoke. So see, we discussed the example of fireball, where there was only smoke and no fire. Sorry, there was only fire and there was no smoke. So this was the relationship is known as Visam Vyapti. So Vyapti has now two parts. Visam Vyapti, which is relationship of unequal extension, the fire and smoke wala example. And Vyapti is also can have equal extension, like the pot wala example. Whatever is nameable is knowable, and whatever is knowable is nameable. So that was the relationship between middle term and major term of equal extension in nature, that is known as samvyapti. समझ में आए ये दोनों टर्म, विषमव्याप्ति समव्याप्ति?
Yes.
ठीक है, तो ये बातें थी व्याप्ति से रिलेटेड. नाउ the another bit we will discuss is hetubhash. Hetubhash. Hetubhash is basically fallacy in Indian logic. So hetubhash is, see, hetu means reason, and abhash is just the glimpse of it. So हेतु, हेतु और रीजन, जब हेतु प्रेजेंट नहीं होता है और केवल हेतु का हमें आभास होता है, दैट इज इफ हेतु और रीजन appears to be real but in fact it is not real, so that is hetu bhash. So you may feel like the reason exists but the reason is not actually existing, so that is your hetu bhash basic meaning. Now there are 5 characteristics of a valid term. If any of these characteristics are violated, then there will be fallacy. The first one is paksha dharmata. That is, hetu must be present in the minor term. Now, hetu must be present in the minor term or paksha dharmata. Remember the hill wala example? Again, if we take to hill wala example, what was that?
There is a smoke on the hill.
So where the
If,
hetu was present, where the reason was present,
because there is a smoke on the fire, there must be the sorry,
where the
smoke on
hetu
the hill.
was
There must
present
be.
on what? Minor term, paksha, or
Ah,
minor term, hetu. Smoke was present on the hill, right? So
yes.
that is what being said here, that hetu is present in the hill, that is minor term. Hetu must be present in the minor term, that is known as paksha dharmata. paksha dharmata स्पेलिंग देख लीजिएगा. पक्ष, इट इज पक्का नहीं लिखा गया है, पक्ष धर्मता इट इज. हेतु मस्ट बी प्रेजेंट इन द minor term. Then other characteristics of hetu is sapakshatva. Sapaksh, sapaksha, sapaksha is positive instances. So hetu must be present in all the positive instances in which the major term is present. अगर एग्जाम्पल सेम एग्जाम्पल ले, if there is fire, there must be the presence of smoke. Hetu must be present in all the positive instances in which the major term is present. What was the major term? A fire. So wherever there is fire, there has to be smoke. That is sapakshatva. Likewise, vipakshatva. Hetu must be absent in which all the negative instances in which the major term is absent. देखेंगे आगे. और अबाधित and aviruddha. Hetu must not be incompatible with the major term. And aviruddha. Aviruddha is hetu must be qualified by the absence of counteracting reasons which leads to contradictory conclusions. See, abadhit and aviruddha we will see in coming slides also. So, the questions which have come from Hetubhash is from the types of Hetubhash. So 5 kinds of Hetubhash: Savya Bhichara, deviations; Viruddha, that is contradictory; Asiddha, unproved middle term; Sat Pratipaksha, when both the parties are correct; and Badhit, we'll see Badhit is supposed by and another strong Pramana. So we'll see one by one all this. The first one, Savya Bhichara or deviations. Savbhichara, the first type of Hetubhash. Savya see, vyabhichara, जैसे if you know in Hindi, people having multiple partners, we say that is a vyabhichara. From there these root words have come. So, Savyabhichara is also known as anekantik. Anekantik yani where there can be more than one end. Yeah. So, for example, all bipeds are rational. Swan is a biped, therefore swan are rational. Swan can be rational, swan cannot be rational, right? So, for example, swan may be rational, swan may not be rational. So, it is a fallacy of savya bhichara, means it is taking into account only one aspect where there can be more than one aspect. What was the Western logic equivalent of it? Can you recall? क्या था fallacy का नाम? Western logic, where there are possible,
Either or fallacy.
yeah, false dichotomy, है ना?
False, हाँ, false dilemma.
Yeah, yeah,
नहीं,
nice.
dichotomy. हाँ.
तो ये चीजें हैं. Savya Bichara could be able to connect.
But
Second one is
ma'am, Difficult to remember all these things.
Yeah, these are complex. In fact,
Uh,
people leave these things, but ठीक है, जितना हो पाता है, at least I am
yes, yes,
highlighting whatever is asked question. कम से कम उतना तो कर लो जितना पूछा
yes,
गया
yes.
है, because see in this bit now you will see questions repeated also.
Repeated. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So I will share the list of questions. I've already shared. एक बार फिर से भेज दूंगी इंडियन लॉजिक के भी सारे क्वेश्चंस, तो एक साथ एक बार रिवाइज कर लेना. आज के
Yes.
क्विज में भी आई हैव पुट अप 15 क्वेश्चंस. सो आफ्टर डूइंग टुडेज डिस्कशन इट विल मेक मोर सेंस टू डू दोस क्वेश्चंस. The second one, viruddha, or viruddha is contradictory. Like we are saying air is heavy because it is empty. So here empty is actually disapproving heaviness of air. So contradictory or viruddha is contradictory middle. So when the middle term is not related to major term but to its contradictory, that is the fallacy of viruddha. Remember, hitbhash is all to do with middle term, है ना? Then sat
Yes, ma'am.
pratipaksha. Sat pratipaksha is both the parties are correct here. Sat pratipaksha, each party is correct out here. So, for example, one infers that the mountain has fire because it is smoke, correct? The other person infers that mountain does not have fire because it is made up of stone. तो एक व्यक्ति कहता है पर्वत पर आग है क्योंकि वहां पर धुआं है, and we have discussed extensively the anumana relation. And the other person is saying the nature of mountain is of stone, so there cannot be fire. Both the parties are correct. So here when the conclusion can be contradicted by another middle term, just justifying the opposite of the conclusion. Sat pratipaksha, inferentially contradicted middle. Then asiddha, unproved middle term. Like for example, we say sky lotus is fragrant because it has lotusness in it, just like the natural lotus. Now we are yet to prove the existence of your middle term. So unproved middle term, when the middle term is not yet proved in the premise, that is asiddha or unproved middle. Now this is further divided into three, that is ashraya siddhi, swarupa siddha, and vyaptavya siddha. Now the example which we discussed was ashraya siddha, where the middle term, where the minor term used in the argument is not real. Like minor term is the locus of the middle term, but when the minor term is unreal, the middle term cannot be present. For example, the sky lotus is fragrant because it is a lotus like a lotus of the pond. We are yet to prove the existence of your sky lotus. That is Ashraya Siddha. Swarupa Siddha. For example, the sound is a quality because sound cannot be seen. Hence, sound is the minor term, it is real. But the middle term seen cannot be present in the minor term. Because sound cannot be seen, it can be heard. Sound is a quality because sound cannot be seen, but sound is heard. So this is kind of middle term cannot be present in minor term. This is a keyword for your Swarupa Siddha. Vyaptavya Siddha, it occurs when the Vyapti, instead of being unconditional, is conditional. For example, wherever there is fire, there is smoke. This is unconditional. Here the Vyapti is conditional in it is conditional in nature, because in some cases, for example, a hot iron ball or fire ball, there is fire and no smoke, so there is a conditional vyapti which is not actual vyapti. So this is another classification, vyaptavya siddha. You are not proving any relationship between your middle term and major term, or conditional relationship. So Now the questions have been asked. They have asked just this example, and you will see these words like आश्रय सिद्धि, स्वरूप सिद्ध and व्याप्तव्य सिद्ध. तो इसको भी एक बार देख लेना अच्छे से. Then
Yes, ma'am.
badhit. Straight away this example they have asked, but badhit meaning you should know. Badhit is non-inferentially contradicted middle. So here the conclusion brought about middle term is disapproved by some other pramana. For example, fire is cold because it is a substance like table. We're saying fire is cold. See, fire is a substance, table is a substance. We are relating these two and saying that because it is a substance, that's why fire is cold. But from prior knowledge, we know that the coldness of fire is disapproved. Fire is hot in nature. So this is your badhit or non-inferentially contradicted middle. Very very important. This example is repeated twice in the exam. ठीक है, दो टर्म में continuously पूछा है बाधित आपसे. तो ये बातें थी. Now towards the end, I have just added a few see, fallacies now I've simplified a little bit. So for last minute revision, these tables may help. So आपके notes में देखना एक बार तो ये सारे होंगे. ये वेस्टर्न फैलेसी के
Yes,
notes
ma'am.
हैं. तो रिवीजन के लिए आपको थोड़ा
ये
सा आसान हो जाए. चलो.
ये प्रीवियस ईयर में नहीं इंक्लूड किया था ना मैम?
नहीं नहीं, मैंने अपडेटेड भेजा है, आपको भी भेजा है, ग्रुप में भी भेजा है.
यस 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 यस.
तो ये सारी चीजें देख लेना. बच जाता है स्कूल ऑफ फिलोसफी. आई विल जस्ट गिव यू वेरी ब्रीफ इंट्रो एंड मे बी विल टेक अप इन सम अदर क्लास. तो एक बार मुझे पुट अप करने दीजिए. देखिए, स्कूल ऑफ फिलोसफी में बेसिक एक टर्म इंट्रोड्यूस करना चाहूंगी इज ऑर्थोडॉक्स एंड unorthodox. Now, astic and nastic in philosophy has a different connotation altogether. Please pay attention here. See, what do we understand literally by astic is believe in God, right? But in Indian logic, when we are studying astic,
वेदा.
is Veda, है ना? And
यस.
all the school of thought which believes in Vedas, see, which believes in the supremacy of Vedas, that Vedas are unfallible. All these are orthodox school, known as orthodox school. And those typically do not believe in Vedas, like your Buddhism, Jainism, Charvaka. All these are your unorthodox school or Nastik darshan. Okay, तो ये टर्म जो है ध्यान में रखिएगा. Summary of all the major schools. See, major school believes in the theory of karma. Most of the school, except for Charvaka, believes in the theory of life, rebirth, and the cycle of karma. So philosophy, why do we study? As practical necessity. How can we lead the best possible life? Indians are known for debate, puru shastra. So how do we apply, analyze knowledge, rationalism, and achieve salvation? That's the most important part, that through knowledge we achieve salvation or moksha. So all the major school of thought believes in the cycle of karma, believes in birth, rebirth cycle, and the ultimate aim of life should be to attain salvation. So all the good karmas minus bad karmas to get into cycle is what the school of thoughts like. ठीक है, तो school of thoughts, let's see if we can take in some other class. We'll get too much. सारी चीजें थी. Second. Like this is the kind of questions being put up. Which of the following school has not accepted Anumana as a valid source? So we know only Charvaka school believes only in one Pramana. So this is a asked question in the exam. Then couple of terminologies I'll explain from here. Like in Buddhism, which of the following are accepted in Buddhism? So it is, the answer is apoha and abhava. Let's just stick to the meaning of these two terms. ठीक है, तो abhava, abhava is non-existence or negation, like something which is absent. So it is negative of bhava. Bhava means something which is existing. Bhava is appearance. Abhava is non-existence. ठीक है, अपोहा, अपोहा क्या है? अपोहा इन बुद्धिज्म exclusion theory is negative process of exclusion. अपोहा is literal meaning जैसे याद रखिए exclusions that can be used to explain away from the universe as the reference of work. Apoha, just see, apoha is also quite deep to understand, but आपको खाली बस इतना याद रखना है, apoha is negative or exclusion theory of Buddhism. बाकी आप चाहते हैं तो आई एड फ्यू राइट अप, बहुत ज़्यादा डीप था तो आई जस्ट refrained myself. I tried giving it a read twice thrice, but थोड़ा सा कॉम्प्लेक्स था. ठीक है, तो स्कूल ऑफ फिलोसफीज विल कवर सम अदर टाइम. दैट इज इट.
Yes, ma'am.
मिलते हैं क्विज में. चलो, थैंक यू एवरीवन.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye.